Never did I envision that my journey would lead me to this very moment. When my best friend's son reached out to me, I didn't think much of it at first. He approached me with a simple request, seeking guidance for an upcoming job interview. He hoped to have someone with more experience review his resume. With a heart full of certainty, I embraced the moment and replied with a resounding yes. I was there, a guiding presence in his early days. I recall the sight of him as a young lad, knees scraped and hair tousled, darting after his mother through the garden while I sat back, chuckling over a glass of wine on the porch. Assisting him came effortlessly, as if it were an innate part of me. As he stepped into my living room, I found myself unprepared for the transformation he had undergone. Sharper, exuding a quiet confidence that felt both grounded and profound. He smiled as if those summers lingered in his memory, yet his eyes told a different tale. With keen eyes and a thirst for knowledge, he settled in, opening his laptop and seeking direction. I embarked on my usual journey. I took the reins, offered my insights, and uplifted him. Yet I couldn't help but observe just how near he positioned himself. How his cologne had transformed. No longer reminiscent of a boy's body spray. He listened with a sincerity that felt rare, not as if he were trying to impress, but with a genuine respect for what I had to say, allowing the conversation to flow effortlessly. From toil to existence, he inquired about my relationship and I provided the customary responses. All is well, I replied. Oh, the hustle and bustle of life, it can be quite overwhelming, can't it? He nodded, yet a gentle warmth flickered in his expression. It was as if he grasped the unspoken words that fine signified a sense of disconnection. The silence of dinners shared, and the void that lingered in the bed, fondness that had settled into habit. He held my gaze, not pushing further, yet the weight of his stare lingered just a moment too long, and I found myself returning it. That night, after he departed, I found myself before the mirror, gently brushing my hair. My thoughts kept returning. Reminiscent of the way he chuckled when I playfully teased him, he leaned in as I spoke, drawing me into the moment. It was subtle, yet it felt intentional. I reassured myself that I was merely overanalyzing. It was merely a whisper in the wind, yet I found myself lingering in front of the mirror longer than usual, returning to our brief text exchange with an interest that felt a touch excessive. Yet, that ember continued to glow within my heart. At first, the sensation eluded me, for it had been ages since someone truly acknowledged my existence, observed. More than a wife, more than a mother, more than a best friend, more than just myself. And he had observed. Perhaps it was unintentional, or perhaps it was merely a figment of my imagination. Yet, I experienced it all the same. The following day unfolded as I navigated through my usual rhythm, tending to chores, engaging in work and running errands. I responded to my partner's calls, greeted my neighbors with a warm smile, embodying the familiar character I've always portrayed. Yet, beneath it all, there lingered a hum, a subtle, unwavering hint that a change had taken place. Yet nothing had truly occurred. All is proper, yet everything had shifted and I found myself lost in contemplation, questioning why a sense of guilt clung to me for actions I had not even taken. After a week had slipped by, he finally decided to reach out once more. This time, the conversation shifted away from jobs and resumes. He simply inquired if I had a moment to chat. He shared that he had been feeling quite overwhelmed. I invited him over without a second thought. Just a spontaneous yes slipped from my lips. As he stepped through the door, an unmistakable shift filled the air. He was not in his typical poised state. His defenses had slipped away. He shared his experience of feeling trapped, expressing how everything in his life seemed to lack stability. How he found himself adrift, uncertain of his actions, yet he listened intently. I shared with him that those emotions were completely natural. He realized that he didn't need to have all the answers immediately. The way he looked at me made it clear that I was the first to share that thought with him. Hearing it from me carried a weight of significance. With a playful quip, I sought to brighten the atmosphere, and a smile broke across his face. That same subtle smile hinted at secrets yet to be revealed. Then he spoke those words, and it was clear: you always have the right thing to say. And there it was again, that unseen thread weaving us together. It stirred something deep within me, an emotional discomfort that spoke volumes about the significance of those words. How much I longed for it to be. He lingered this time, and we shared our thoughts on everything and nothing at all. At one moment, he extended his hand for a glass, and our fingers lightly touched. Only the touch of skin against skin, brief yet undeniable, but the sensation lingered within me. Every nerve tingled with anticipation. I withdrew a touch too swiftly, and he caught on. He remained silent, yet his awareness was keen. The atmosphere shifted then, electric with anticipation, and we were both aware of it. We both turned a blind eye to it. When he departed, he cast a glance my way that defied description. Not quite yearning, not precisely guilt, but rather an emotion that is difficult to decipher yet undeniably sincere. I convinced myself it was merely a figment of my imagination. He felt a deep sense of gratitude, appreciating the absurdity of my actions, yet I found myself unable to cease the endless replaying of it. That subtle gesture, that quiet pause where time seemed to stand still, yet nearly everything came close to unraveling that night. Sleep eluded me as my thoughts tangled in a chaotic dance. I found myself pondering the reasons behind my reactions, why I was allowing this to affect me. Yet the reality was straightforward. It had been an eternity since I sensed my significance to another soul. When someone gazed at me not from routine but from intention, he regarded me as if I still held a spark of life, still desired. And I loathed the way it enveloped me in warmth, prompting a deeper inquiry into my own thoughts. Each message he crafted, with each word I typed, was I crossing a line? Was I conjuring one? Was I merely feeling the weight of solitude? I had lost track of it all. All I sensed was that a chain of events had begun to unfold, and I found myself unable to halt it, not for lack of desire, yet there lingered a doubt within me, casting shadows on my certainty. It came about unexpectedly. That's the moment I find myself returning to, the one where I never declared, this is it. I'm going to pursue this path. He arrived to deliver a little something. He mentioned he had a break between meetings and wanted to express his gratitude once more for my assistance. Feeling quite relaxed about it. It was not. The moment he crossed the threshold, I sensed an unmistakable shift in the air. He gazed at me as if the silence that hung between us had been swelling, echoing with unspoken words since our last encounter. It resonated deeply. Each word we shared was heavy with the unspoken truths lingering between us. We were standing close together. It was too close for comfort. I endeavored to maintain a sense of normalcy, yet I could sense his gaze upon me. He offered praise for a little detail. With a chuckle, I believe I replied with a feeble attempt at humor, making an effort to let it go. Yet, I found myself unable to proceed. A moment of silence lingered. I gazed upward and he held my gaze, unwavering. In that moment, an excruciating silence enveloped us, and then, like a spark igniting a flame, it happened. He leaned in, eager to share the unfolding tale. I could have intervened, yet I chose not to. Responded to his gesture. It was raw and chaotic, bursting with spontaneity, years of restraint collapsing in a single moment. I hesitated for a moment, my thoughts shouting that it was a mistake, yet my body remained still, unyielding. He appeared equally bewildered. Yet he offered no apology. Instead, he merely whispered, "This desire has lingered in my heart for what feels like an eternity." That ought to have been the line, yet it was not. I pressed my lips against his once more with greater intensity. And then, in an instant, all became a haze. We released ourselves entirely. In the aftermath, the silence transformed. He lay beside me, his breath deep and heavy. His hand lingered on my skin as if he were reluctant to part ways. I gazed at the ceiling, my thoughts a tangled web, my heart racing knit from the events that had just unfolded. But from the surprising absence of regret in that very moment, regret should have washed over me. I ought to have been engulfed in embarrassment, yet I felt acknowledged. Seeking, awake in a manner I hadn't felt in ages. He spoke little and so did I. Silence hung heavy in the air, for every word that could be spoken would only deepen the chasm of despair, yet the warmth of his touch remained echoing in the air. It felt as though he was determined to ensure this wasn't just a fleeting error. And that thought sent a shiver down my spine, for there was a part of me that felt the same way. As he turned to go, there was no farewell uttered. Instead, he cast a glance my way as if he were poised, anticipating my words to break the silence first. I wasn't able to. With a gentle push, I eased the door shut behind me and leaned against its solid frame, seeking a moment to catch my breath. All things seemed to carry a greater weight. The weight of guilt settled in. But it was the dawning awareness that I had chosen a path I never imagined I would take. Even more troubling was the truth that if he were to ask again, I would find myself making that same choice once more. The days that followed seemed like a dream. I moved through the day, engaging in work, conversations, and dinners. Yet everything felt shrouded in a haze. Neither of us made the first move. Lost in our own silence, not because I lacked the desire, but rather because the words eluded me. What could I possibly say that wouldn't deepen the chasm of misunderstanding? Each time my gaze fell upon my phone, the thought of reaching out to him danced in my mind. Merely a single term, just to gauge if he was pondering it as well. I never did, and yet I lingered, anticipating the moment his name would finally emerge. My partner sensed a shift in the air, a subtle change that prompted him to inquire if I was all right. Joy, he took my words at face value, accepting my claim of fatigue and distraction without question. That nearly deepened the trouble, the trust, the normalcy. It all enveloped me like a soft whisper of judgment that lingered just out of reach. With each brush of his hand, a shiver ran through me. A silent reaction hidden beneath the surface. Not due to him, but because I couldn't help but draw comparisons. The way I felt with him now was distant, almost robotic. It felt as though we were merely preserving a memory that had long since lost its vibrancy. I turned away from my closest companion, letting her calls fade into silence. I found myself unable to confront her. Her face lingered in my mind, her voice echoed in my ears. And the trust she placed in me weighed heavily on my heart. The guilt cutting deeper than anything I had ever known. It's not merely about my actions, but rather the company I kept along the way. I considered the possibility of setting it aside, convincing myself it was merely a fleeting moment. A gentle misstep. Yet, it didn't seem like a mere misstep. It was as if a hidden truth had emerged. Something deep within me that had been overlooked for ages finally breaking free, once more. I laid my eyes upon him. In the brief moments we shared in public, words eluded us. At that moment, our gazes locked from opposite ends of the room. In that fleeting moment, time stood still and the bond remained unbroken. It lingered, quietly bubbling just beneath the surface. Yet, a chasm had formed between us, as if we both understood the weight of our actions. And neither of us found the bravery to delve deeper into it. In the stillness of night, I find myself awake far more than I drift into slumber, not due to the shadows of the past, but rather the relentless echo of memories that dance in my mind. Not merely the action, but the motivations that drive it. The truth I hesitate to acknowledge is that my actions were not merely the result of youthful temptation or emotional yearning. Rather, they stemmed from a deep hunger for connection, for sensation, for anything that could affirm my existence and remind me that I was still alive. He bestowed that upon me, not through charm or manipulation, but through a commanding presence. He gazed at me as if I held significance. It was as if he uncovered the essence of me that had been hidden beneath layers of monotony. For years, uncertainty looms ahead, and the thought of revealing my truth remains a mystery yet to unfold. It remains uncertain whether he will extend his hand once more. A part of me yearns for him to stay away, while another part longs for his presence. Yet, there is one truth I hold dear: everything has shifted. I am not the same. My relationship has transformed, and my self-perception has evolved. Some choices don't explode, they resonate through time. And this one continues to echo in every corner of my existence.